Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum podcast. My name is Citizen Strife, and this week I talk again about the anime of this season. And admittedly, there aren't that many that have been interesting to me. Unlike the 7, 8, or 9, or even 10 shows in the last couple of seasons, this has only been 5-ish, 4 or 5-ish. And some of them are sequels. Some of them are continuations, and then 1 or 2 new shows. A lot of the issue is coming from either early on there was a lot of shows that I was just not interested in at all, or continuing on, a lot of shows have been being dubbed in different languages for different countries, so I haven't really been able to get an English version, and obviously I can't really read subtitles very well to focus on subs. So anything in a different language other than English, I'm just having trouble. So there's 3 or 4 shows that I may want to watch, but are dubbed in a different language. So I've been kind of stuck with the 4 or 5 that I wanted to keep. Except there's one that I wanted to drop recently. And if you've listened to me over the last little while, you could probably guess which one I'm dropping. Tougen Anki. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I was in that weird waffling stage for quite a while. And it didn't even strike me because I just kept up with it and I kept enjoying it sort of as a junk food shonen, because I kept comparing it to Gachiakuta or Sakamoto Days. Those are better. But I was invested enough in the story that I was kind of bypassing some of the goofiness and some of the blood eclipse release. And they're just doing these goofy fights. And the main villains are not all that special and annoying. But then I got to the most recent episode and I just was like, okay, this dude that Mudano is fighting is just, oh yeah, this is a great fight, isn't it? Well, if he's doing this, then I should go counter this thing. And, he's vocalizing all of his thoughts. Like he's Anne Shirley or something. And, not a good look for a fight where I'm trying to enjoy the fight and you're just doing, stream of consciousness. I get it. Stream of consciousness and reaction shots are great, but when you're basically vocalizing every single fucking word and you're supposed to be fighting a dude, and I'm already not really invested, I'm just kind of eh. And then the rest of the episode was a backstory thing about a character that I've not really been given a chance to like, and it's very basic and bare bones, and I started doing the old fast forward. And when I start fast forwarding a thing, it's never a good sign, especially for something on the fence like I always was. So I just realized I've been watching other things and I could just be watching something else. I've been getting to the end of episodic shows in my backlog, unless they have tons of 50, 60 episode things. And I'm getting into watching more movies, right? So I need more time to watch those. And if my choice is a bare bones shonen with bare bones characters and stock dialogue versus Makia, When the Promised Flower Blooms, or Boy and the Beast, or The Girl on the Other Side, and I'm wholly invested in those, but they take an hour and a half to 2 hours, I mean, I don't mind ditching something once a week. I'd rather just do something else. I could record another episode of my video game stuff on my other channel. I could do that instead. And I'm like, no. So I dumped it. So I've got 4 shows left, but it's fine because they're good things. I'll start with Gachiakuta because, again, there's always kind of that Gachiakuta, Sakamoto Days, Tougen Anki, or Tougen Anki and Sakamoto. But Sakamoto wins because at least it does something interesting with its premises most of the time, even if it's in a hurry to do those things and doesn't take time to stop. At least it's an interesting premise. Tougen Anki, after a while, just got bleh. But anyway, Gachiakuta, basically Tougen Anki, but better. And they're doing their thing in the trash land, and they get sucked into this portal, and they're facing off against the raiders. The last episode was them. Actually, the last couple of episodes have just been them kind of setting the mood. and talking through things. Like, you'll have one sequence with this dude, this cowboy dude talking to a couple other guys. Then you have another sequence of the main raider dude facing off against Rudo and kind of like trying to manipulate him and talk through like the bullshit that he's dealing with, and trying to get him on his side, or at least trying to corrupt him, or at least trying to make him think things. The other parts of the episodes have been Jabber, who's basically been the standout fighting dude of this entire show, basically just fighting the dude with the staff the whole time and being like, "Oh, you can't stop me, can you? Oh, this is so good, man. You're gonna fight me, aren't you?" He just has, it's voiced by the guy, Jabber's voiced by Zeno Robinson, so you kind of know he's having fun. But yeah, so Jabber is just constantly, "Come on, man. You're holding on to me, aren't you?" Shit like that. And just chewing scenery and doing the fight scene and actually winning most of the time, which kind of shocked me. But it still was one of those like, okay, that's not what I was expecting to happen, because usually with these you'd expect the good guy to come out ahead. And then they ended on a cliffhanger, and it might be one of those things where it's like the dude survived somehow or revived somehow because they didn't like go through the rest of his story, or he might just be fucking dead. It would take some balls to take like one of the secondary main characters and just fucking kill him right off the bat. 15 episodes in, but it's still like, all right, you've established this guy as like one of the main dudes of the cleaners and the givers, so it's like, is he gonna die? Maybe not. It's anime. It's like superhero shows. You never know if somebody's totally dead until the show's runtime is finally fucking over. But, kudos on them for making talky episodes good and then giving you an episode, or a half episode devoted to a fight scene. But Gachiakuta continues going well. SpyxFamily Season 3 is good. At the last episode, I think I talked about the beginnings of Lloyd's memories. So he's kind of just sitting on the couch and he's dreaming about his former life. And, a bomb's dropped on his home and his family's gone, and he basically joins the army and meets up with Frankie, so they tie in how they know each other, because Frankie is an informant on the other side who's basically just like, this war's fucking dumb, war is just stupid. You're taking sides, and it doesn't really matter because nobody in the top really matters about you. So we're just dying for nothing. And he lets him go. And then Lloyd ends up finding himself in service to the spy organization he currently is in. I'm going to say, 4 or 5 years? I mean, they make it... I don't think they ever tell you how old Lloyd or Yor are. But I'm going to say, like, late 20s. Or mid-20s, right? So they've probably had a lot of time to grow into, like, I have all these skills. Here's why I have all these skills. Here's the thing. Young enough that it's still plausible, but they're not, like, in their 40s, But then again, anime works on weird logic. So somebody who looks like they're 20 could be 60. Or somebody who's a grandma and 1,000 years old could be 5. So fuck if I know. Speaking of people who are badass, Handler, one of my go-to just subtle like side characters, voiced by Stephanie Young, who did Olivier Armstrong and did some stuff in like Salty Ray and just basically does everything, right? She's been in everything. You probably know what her voice is, but she's Handler in this, and she runs the organization that Lloyd's doing for. And while he's just sitting on the couch dreaming his weird dream, she's stopping some weird, like, tabloid thing about the scandal for this opera singer. And this guy is getting on her nerves because he's been in there for 2 years, and Hannah's just like, please, don't listen to everything you hear. This is really dumb. So she threatens him, and she's getting annoyed. Or she's going off and doing her own thing, not wearing her hat, normal outfit. And she just goes out and about, and they learn about what's going to happen. It's an assassination attempt with some guy in some security cop outfit. So they do the usual spy stuff. Handler gets a moment to shine, and it's just lovely. I love it whenever like other characters, because I said this with Nightfall and Frankie, when other characters get to do things, because as good as the Forgers are, you still have those 4 or 5 other main characters that you can focus on and be like, all right, give them something else to do. You know, they have lives outside of the Forgers, so giving them something else is kind of neat. The other half of the episode was Anya at school. She's got the nitrous bolts, and she's she's late for school, or late getting home from school because the buses won't take them. So the teacher and the principal guy, Elegance, right? He's taking Anya around the school and telling her everything is fine, and he's just panicking because Anya is either listening or not listening in her total Anya way, because she's trying to pay attention, but it's too fucking complicated because it's hard and it's cool, you know. But she's trying so hard because she's Anya and she's great. But it was nice, again, other characters talking and other things, because she's not dealing with Desmond or Becky. She's dealing with the principal guy. Little things like that. I'm a sucker for, like, and I've said this all the way back in Ergo Proxy, so this is going back a couple years ago. The longer that I do this, the more I'm a sucker for the subtlety and the moments where, like, nothing happens, and yet you get to do the nothing. You get to do the boring everyday lives. Like, you get to see these people doing things that is not them fighting, them going to school, them talking to people, them doing plot. It's just them screwing around. What do they do on their days off? You don't want all of it, because you don't want the thing to slow down to a fucking crawl. But if you got a spare moment, a spare episode to just sit there with the character and their thoughts and what they're doing, like how they react to little things, to the menial tasks in their lives, it's great. Because sometimes you don't want to know, I'm doing plot, let me do plot, let me plot dump. You just want them to sit around with a character they usually don't mess around with. That's even better. And get that relationship. Because you're building a different kind of story arc that is different. Different kind of story arc that's different. Hooray, I love words. Reminds me, I was at work yesterday, and I was talking to people about making mistakes while looking at a set or a product, and immediately I'm talking to the boss, and I'm talking to somebody else, and I go, I made a mistake right when I said I was talking about people making mistakes. Show me, you know, the little things that you catch when you do it for a living. Anyway, so different stories go off in branching paths. That's the word I was looking for. Branching directions that you didn't think the show would go. You can spend some time doing the little things. And sometimes the little things add up because you get to learn something about somebody you didn't know. So I love that. Let's see. Getting back to a different show here is To Your Eternity, Season 3. And Mizuha and the weirdness surrounding her. They've established that Mizuha killed her mother. And she either does know it, doesn't know it, won't accept it, doesn't know it, is trying to figure out what's going on. She thinks her mother's still alive. We found out that the knockers are the reason why. The guy in black that's been fucking around with Fushi and guiding him for years now and decades turns up again in the guise of, you guessed it, a high school student. Because reasons. You know, you go from the threatening, foreboding Emperor Palpatine looking guy to, I'm a creepy high schooler. Like, it's a drop off. Anyway, so he talks about the knockers, and, you know, Bon and Fushi are just like, this is fucking dumb. What are we going to do? Are we going to kill all the knockers? And you do this, like, cool thing where you notice that, like, other people are infested with the knockers, and, like, they do some very fucked up shit. So this one involves a girl, like, in public, Fushi is trying to get rid of her, legitimately trying to kill her to get rid of the knockers. And she calls him on it. And she says, didn't you want to get rid of me? What's the problem? Is people looking at you? What are you going to do? And I'm like, Jesus! This show has definitely picked back up. This season, like, it was starting okay, but I didn't really know where it was going to go. And then, like, these last 3 or 4 episodes, going in places I was not expecting this to go in this modern world. And basically messing up Fushi's life. And then the cliffhanger to end this episode, because it's been kind of the will they, won't they, like, obsessive Mizuha with the Hayase gene, basically going, I love him. I want to love him. I love him and squeeze him. I want Fushi. And it's like, she kind of goads him with crocodile tears. At least that's the thing I'm guessing she did. Was, if you don't know what love is, I'm willing to teach you. And he's been kind of like, nah, because he knows that Hayase and her descendants have been, frankly, fucking weirdos. That's basically their whole MO. Weird, obsessive stalker people. The second season, they had the dude who was kind of alright and just ended up as a bodyguard. Now you're getting into the, like, is he actually falling for this person? Like 100,000 years later, because they were kind of teasing that in some instances, but they never went into it. And I'm like, this season they might actually do that. And it's like, where is this gonna go? Because it's like Mizuha has 2 other friends that sort of like her, but are on the wayside because she just goes nuts for Fuji because she's destined to do so. Her insane genes are basically telling her to do that, and I don't know, given how rough this show has been, and how far it's been willing to go in the last few episodes in telling these kinds of stories, like, they're probably not going to pull any punches. I have no earthly idea, like, where they want this to go, where it could go. It could just play out very simplistically. It could have shades of gray. It could go very freaking naughty and kinky all of a sudden. I have no freaking idea. And I'm like, oh God, what, this might have been like 2 or 3 episodes ago, but like, they've been messing around with goof, like, and this was more comedic, right? But this was stuff I wasn't going to expect. And this is very naughty language. So again, this is 18 plus, of course. But Fuji's at school, and people have joined the school and whatnot, and Mizuha and whatever her friends are part of the school, and one of the bully kids, or one of the Mizuha's a man, and she confronts Fushi in the stairway, and she's trying to tell him that, like, Mizuha's a bitch, like, to his face, and he's like, oh, what's a bitch? And she's like, she's a slut. I'm like, what's a slut? Like, she's a whore. Well, what's a whore? Getting right up in her face, like, excited to learn these new words and these things, and she just runs off. She's like, ah! And I'm like, what a weird aside to take this, like, filthy, naughty scene and just play it completely for comedy, because Fushi doesn't know any better. He doesn't know what these words mean. And she didn't have the heart to tell him. She didn't understand. Why is this guy so excited? Why is he getting up in my face? Personal space. Ah! And then, to learn that this whole Mizuha thing, like, there are going to be implications and repercussions regardless of which direction this whole relationship goes. And that's kind of the crux of the season, is not only figuring out what happened to her mother and what's surrounding this whole Hayase thing, the Hayase genes, the Guardian genes, but it's like Fushi learning about this new world, and basically is like accepting, kind of accepting this, like, begrudgingly accepting this relationship. And I'm like, he may accept it to a point where he may not come back from it, or he might deny it and be like, all right, this is not good. This is a bad idea. This is a very bad idea. And I don't know how they're going to express it. And this show was really, really, really good for a season. And then really, really kind of for a season, which had its moments. But and now it's like back to, oh, goody. I love this stuff. Because it's not shying away from some really rough imagery and really cool subject matter with these characters. And it's really fun. I didn't expect Fushi in the modern day, because I was expecting them to go a lot slower through history, kind of Assassin's Creed wise, and then they just went to modern day, like boom. But it's working out splendidly. Another show that's working out well is the one new show that I do like so far, and that's the With Our Love We'll Make It Through, or With You Our Love Shall Make It Through, or something along those lines. But it's about Tsunagu and Mira, a demi-human wolf guy and this normal human, and they immediately fall for each other basically, and they're just kind of running through like their like will they won't they romance. They have chemistry despite the uncertainties around it, and they do a smart thing. They play up the beast guys are kind of and nobody likes them, but they're super smart, but they cause problems. One of the episodes was about them kind of working through like what like his threshold is, like understanding, will he go crazy if he falls for somebody? Will his emotions run out of control? Will his instincts fall? And they sort of do, they sort of don't. But I think people were like understanding that, like, he's not that bad a guy. He's got a wolf's head, and a tail. Like, so what? Other people are like, no, he sucks. Get away from him. And then the subplot of the most recent episode was, he was the smartest guy in school. The girl who was the smartest person in school got pissed at him because basically her parents want her to study, the whole Japan thing, become a good student, get into a good college, make your parents proud sort of thing. And she just wants to be a writer, and it kind of fucks with that dynamic. So she blames him. I'm kind of laughing because even the show was leaning towards, oh no, where is she going to go? She's on the roof. What is she going to do? They played it up. Even the dialogue was sitting there laughing, and it's like, I thought you were going to do the thing. I'm like, no, she was on the inside the whole time. She was on the inside of the roof fence. So it's fine, right? But, she finds out that Tsunagu's really a helpful guy and, charming in a way, despite his look. And, slowly winning friends over, and Mira is like, okay, he's not that bad a guy. And I think people are starting to see that. The prejudices are not gonna be there for so long. Oh, sorry. Just again, they're doing enough of the interviews with Monster Girls thing with the demi-humans, where they explain enough about the demi-human, the beast kind thing, where you understand that it's a lived-in kind of experience, and you need to like be given context because every show is different. Some shows don't care. They're just like, I have a beast form, go me, don't care. Some overanalyze it. Some prey upon it. Some use that as their footing. Others are like, okay, we're this half romance, half whatever, will they, won't they? They do enough to kind of give the explanations. A lot of it is done via internal monologue, but I think it works because you hear these characters kind of running through the things in their head, and then you have these like love triangles starting to form, and it's like, well, am I gonna act on it or do I not? And I think that's when that like a storyline is just gonna be the two in romance. Love triangles may or may not work because you're already kind of like concerned that it's like it's preordained, it's predestined. Sometimes it's annoying. Other times it like works because it's like you're fiddling with a concept that should work, shouldn't work. But it all comes down to chemistry. It all comes down to character chemistry, and I think the main leads have chemistry as these uncertain people trying to navigate this really fast-moving relationship, but they're doing it in an analytical kind of way. They understand the ramifications and like what would happen, but they're also like, they've also gone over instances of like, well, women or men and women, human basically, fell for men or male or female beasts or beast kinds. That's how beastkin were made, beast types. And I'm like, it's possible. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. So they're establishing rules, a framework. They're giving you some sort of like box, And I've done this with acting stuff recently. Like you establish a character, you establish a world, you establish rules. You don't want to overdo the rules, but you still want structure. You still want, okay, this thing is where we're going. We're not going to deviate too far from it, but we're gonna stretch the boundaries of what we can do in this suspension of disbelief. What would this character or this person say in this scenario? Does this seem like something? Because then it would be this kind of show. Every show or every piece of media is different and has operating rules that it goes under. This falls into the drama and the romance comedy sort of thing, and it veers heavily more into the drama and the romance. So you have to have prevailing rules of like what can or can't the characters do in these scenarios. It's not trying to be a laugh out loud crazy sort of thing. It's trying to be more introspective, and I think I enjoy that. Because a lot of the other shows are very in your face, because a couple of the shows are more in your face and straightforward talky stuff, there's still drama. And I like that all of the shows that I'm talking about are dramatic in some extent. But this one has a romance subplot that I think is different than the others, because these other ones are more action focused or straightforward shonens in some cases, But all of these 4 shows have lived up to the hype, and I think are really, really, really freaking good. So I'm glad to talk about them. Tougen Anki, I gave it 13, 14, 15 episodes. I'm not lacking for choice. I just realized that I could have been spending a little bit better time thinking through a thing. But to each their own. It's fine. But that'll do for this week. And let's see what's on the docket going forward. So, I've got Vagrant Story next week. I've got that episode set up. Gangsta. Ace Attorney Dual Destinies. Kowloon Generic Romance. And in January, I know I'll beat this game by then, I'm sure, the Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster. I've got a lot of things to say about both games, and mostly positive things, which is good, because I've enjoyed my time with it. But that'll do, and I'll see you guys next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.